Hey guys, welcome back to Clubhouse Kids. Today's video, I'm going to be wrapping up my tax series on all of my home daycare deductions that I take. So this will be the last video. If you missed any of the other videos, I will link the playlist below. But today I'm just going to be quickly going over kind of the last two categories that I use for deductions, and then I will be answering a question that I received from a subscriber. So the first one I want to go over is the repair and maintenance category. For me, this category is usually not very high. Really, I only use it for if I have to replace an object or a toy or something in our classroom that a child has broke. So I've been doing daycare for 14 years, and one summer I had probably a rowdier group of school-age kids, and they were playing in the backyard, and someone just like slammed into our fence, and we have like a vinyl white fence, and it did like pop the panel out. And so we had to get that fixed, and that went into that category. But for the most part, I honestly haven't used that category very much, but that's how I use it. If you guys use that category for anything else, let me know, but that's pretty much how I use it. So there's been years where there really hasn't been even anything in that category, because, you know, if they break a toy or something, maybe it was on its last leg anyway, and I wasn't really going to replace that toy anyway. But if, you know, you have a daycare child, you know, take a pencil or something and wipe it across your couch or something, and you have to get that cleaned, or, you know, they throw something on your TV and by chance the TV breaks or something, that category would be for stuff like that. I've just been lucky where I've never really had to utilize that very often. So then the other category I want to talk about is the office expenses. This is a category that I do make a lot of deductions in. So this is the category that I time space our internet. I use Instant Ink subscription for all my printing, and so that I deduct my Instant Ink subscription as an office expense. Anything that I use, so copy paper, pens, pencils, anything that I'm using in my office, Post-it notes, and then larger expenses would be, you know, your printer, your laminator. This isn't a large expense, but like a three-ring hole punch, paper cutters, just anything like that that you use to create the products or newsletters or communication or anything for your daycare would be considered an office expense and would be deductible. Also, I put Netflix in this category, so I time space our Netflix because my daycare kids do watch Netflix in the morning when they first arrive, and then sometimes in the afternoon. Every once in a while they'll also do Disney Plus, but I could probably deduct that one as well, but for the most part we do Netflix. But if you do our Disney Plus, you could also use that one. But that's just remember that would be a time space percent if you're watching that outside of daycare hours as well, which my kids watch Netflix and Disney Plus as well. But if you are never on Netflix outside of your daycare hours, then that would be a 100% deduction. The other thing that I don't use is we don't have a landline in my home. So I use just my cell phone, which would be considered my first phone. There is a daycare rule that you can deduct a second phone. So if you have a landline that you use, like a separate number for daycare calls, that would be a deduction. If you have a separate cell phone from your personal cell phone, that would be a deduction. That's not something I utilize because I just have my one cell phone. The last thing I want to talk about is if you have a housekeeper that cleans your daycare space. So I do have a housekeeper that cleans my whole house, but she also cleans my daycare area weekly. So on my taxes for that, I have a Form 1099 miscellaneous income for that because she is an independent contractor who comes into my home, performs a task that I have given her, but she is not my employee because she works for herself and has other clients. Since she is an independent contractor, I only have to do a 1099 miscellaneous, whereas if I hire a assistant to come into my home, then they would be an employee to my daycare and they would not get a 1099 miscellaneous. They would have to be counted as an employee, which is a whole nother payroll tax thing that we can get into if anyone is interested. But for me this year, I just had a independent contractor. So I think that pretty much wraps up the areas that I deduct from. If you guys have been following along in this series, check out the comments. There has been some really good comments about some ways that other people organize their files and write their deductions, and I have gained some tips from them as well. That's what I love about this channel, is that we can just gain a lot of new ideas from a lot of different providers, and that's why I love that comment section. So check those out, read what other people have put. But the one question that I did want to go over was, I had a subscriber tell me that they have been kind of getting ready to open their daycare, but they have yet to open the daycare yet, but they have been purchasing items. So, which is where we all began. We all started, paying into licensing fees, getting objects for our classroom, toys, and all that kind of stuff, and you usually do start that process before that first child comes into your home. So the question was, can you deduct that stuff on your taxes? So in the eyes of the IRS, your business does not start until that child is enrolled and you're receiving tuition from that family. So that is when you would look at, like, this is a business and I'm gaining income. So you have to have income coming in for it to be like a business in the eyes of the IRS. So you are entitled to deduct all those items in that first business year. So how I did it 14 years ago was, I got a spiral notebook and I just kept track of everything that I purchased for the daycare, and also everything that I was going to be using in the daycare. So most of us start out as young moms, and so we already have a lot of toys in our homes that we are going to be using with the daycare. And so you can write that down and then just write like the market value of that item. So an example would be, I have a Fisher Price Farm toy that I'm going to use in my daycare, but it was already my child's. I like to take the rule of thumb, like if I was going to sell this on Facebook Marketplace or a garage sale, like how much would this cost? So this Fisher Price Farm is probably worth, $15 to $20 because I have all the pieces that go with it. And so that first year that I open my daycare, you're just going to tally all that stuff up, and that is going to be a large startup cost that you had in that first year. And you do qualify for some special rules in that first startup year. Not a lot of providers make a profit in that first year because you are deducting more items than you would be in the continuous years. And in the eyes of the IRS, that is okay if you don't make that profit in that first year of business. That's pretty normal. You're only going to have that issue if you consistently don't make a profit. Then you're not going to look like you are for-profit business, if that makes sense. So just keep really, really good receipts of everything you purchase for your daycare, or everything that you're going to utilize in your daycare before your first opening day, and that will help you be a lot more organized and ready for the first year of your home daycare taxes. Okay guys, I hope this series has helped you guys a lot. I have had a lot of fun making these videos for you guys. I keep all my records for 7 years. And we are in the process of moving, so most of my stuff is in pods right now. Or I would show you how I keep my taxes. I've shown them in a separate video, but basically I used an IKEA drawer system, and it literally has 7 little cubbies to it, and I just kind of put all my tax information in one of those drawers, and then the next year I just bounce the drawers down by 1. So then every year that I do taxes, that bottom drawer can go, and then that bottom drawer comes back up to the top, and that becomes that current year's tax stuff, and I just kind of start that process over. So the best tip I can give you is just save those receipts, keep good records. If you can stay organized, really what you can do at the end of the month in 20 minutes will save you so much time at the end of the year when you're trying to do that same thing and finding everything again. It's going to take you so much longer. That's going to take you hours compared to a couple minutes at the end of every month. All right, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.